Welcome to the Feisty Women's Performance Podcast. I'm your host, Sara Gross, Ironman champion, PhD in women's history, and founder and CEO of Feisty Media. I started this show because I wanted to cut through the BS of diet culture and fitness culture and actually learn from high-achieving women at the top of their game who have figured out how to feel and perform their best at every stage of life. So I chat with experts, elite athletes, and leaders who have learned to succeed despite the massive gender data gap in exercise and medical science and product development. Every episode is filled with information, advice, and anecdotes that will help you fulfill your potential as an athlete, mom, leader, or business owner. And listen up. If you don't subscribe to our Women's Performance newsletter, you are definitely missing out. It's totally free. So head over to womensperformance.com and subscribe now. That's womensperformance.com. This podcast is a production of Feisty Media. Hello, Feisties. Thank you for tuning in to this week's Women's Performance Podcast. I'm Sara Gross, and I am thrilled to be talking to someone today who kinda unknowingly was part of Feisty Media's early growth. My guest is Arielle Knutson, who is the new CEO of Oiselle, a women's running apparel brand that is doing incredible things and has built their entire brand on empowering women and creating community. We heard from and I learned a ton from their former president, Atsuko Tamura, a couple weeks ago. If you have not listened to that episode, it's episode 95 from February 5th. So go back and check that out. So back to my story about Arielle. When I first started Feisty, I had a couple small sponsorships while I learned how to work with brands and create value in partnerships with like-minded companies who wanted to support women's sports. Then one day, I got an email from Arielle, who worked in marketing at Nuun Hydration, asking if I had a deck and if Feisty wanted to partner with Nuun. Nuun then became Feisty's biggest partner, and the partnership lasted 4 years. Interestingly, Nuun also got an incredible ROI from the partnership, proving that women in endurance sports were a big and legitimate market. And you sort of have to understand that 5 years ago, that wasn't always assumed. Like, we know now that women are a legitimate market in any kind of sport. But back then, brands often feared marketing to women in case they got it wrong or in case they were barking up the wrong tree and there was not really an audience there. Arielle ultimately rose to the VP of marketing at Nuun, which set her up very well for her current position as CEO at Oiselle. So today, I finally got to catch up with Arielle after all these years. We talked about why she invested in marketing specifically to women when she was at Nuun, how sport has shaped her leadership, how she deals with feelings of inadequacy, and how she sees Oiselle growing into the future. Arielle, welcome to the Women's Performance Podcast. I am so excited to talk to you today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, we had a few delays and finally we pinned you down and got you on the podcast. You know, when your name came up as a new CEO of Oiselle, like there were several people on my team who I know that you know also who were very excited to see that. So congratulations. And how's it been it's been since October, so 4 months or so. How's it going so far?
Awesome. Well, thank you for the kind words. It's awesome. I am just so happy to be here. I'm a longtime friend and fan and follower of Oiselle, the brand and the team. And so it's pretty full circle to be here at the helm leading Oiselle into the next chapter. It's been a crazy 4 months, but like a really fun one.
Crazy in a good way?
Crazy in a good way. Yes.
Okay.
Went to Austin for TRE, went to Boulder for a photo shoot, went to Orlando for the marathon trials. So starting it all off with a bang.
Yeah. I'm already going off script. I always do this. I said the questions earlier and then like completely asked different questions. But this is just me being curious as a human. Like, did you see yourself as potentially someone who would be like the CEO of a clothing company or of any company someday?
Not necessarily. I'm definitely not one of those people that's been like, I'm going to follow this prescribed career track and I have to like check these boxes. But I'm somebody that like, and this goes back to sport too, like I'm very always very interested in learning and in figuring out like what I'm capable of and what other people are capable of. So I like to like learn and progress and learn and progress.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and have always loved sports. So I remember being a teenager and like loving sports, but like not understanding how can I translate that to a career. So like past me would think that future me did pretty good. So that's cool.
Well, I can really relate to that. And I feel like, I liked what you just said there about like learning about other people and what they're capable of too. Because I feel like that's CEO stuff right there.
Yeah, the teamwork makes the dream work is real.
Hmm.
Building teams and like figuring out how to like unlock the best in, yourself and other people and like a group of people together is um a really cool feeling. Yeah, and I've been lucky to experience that both in sport and in my career. Um, and it's like so special to be able to create that.
And Oiselle is kind of that kind of brand in terms of being like a brand that you can tell even if you know very little about it, like very focused on community, supporting women runners at various levels. And I have often wondered this, so now I'm gonna ask you directly, like, how does that how does that mesh with being a business and having to constantly like being focused on community and supporting the community and social impact with like actually building a business and needing to make money to make it run and actually needing to have money to like innovate and
Yeah.
develop and move forward. You know what I mean? Like how do you balance those two things, or how has Wazal done that over the years?
Yeah, I mean it is a balance. It's like if you go too far on either end of the spectrum, you're no longer a business. And like the way that we like to think about it is the world is a better place with Wazal as a business being here
Mm,
because here we lead with our values. We, are doing the best we can. We're not always perfect. No brand or person is always perfect, but the world is better, sport is better, women's active lifestyle communities are better if we exist. And so we try to make decisions that, allow our business to move forward and grow and impact more lives positively. But that has to be at the core of what we're doing is impacting lives positively.
for sure. I mean, I feel that, right? And for you, like just stepping into this role, what's your vision for the next couple years for the brand?
Yeah, I think that Wazal has so much potential. That's a lot of what drew me to the position and what drew me to the team that's here. The sport of running is growing, the sport of running is strong, but there's still a lot of barriers to participation. I think especially for women. And so I think Wazal's angle of really coming at sport from an inclusive lens, from a community-oriented lens, and really valuing like the interpersonal connection between individuals or groups of people will be a key tenet in what moves the brand forward. I mean, we want to get more women running and more women comfortable with running and more women running in their communities because you know, as athletes, I think we all probably believe that when women are empowered through sport, that translates into so many other aspects of life and sport is kind of like a microcosm of the rest of what's happening. So there's a lot more work for us to do, and a lot more positive impact to have.
Yeah, and how does what we wear as female runners relate to empowering us, or how does what are the connections there? Like, how does it help to feel? I mean, I'm asking this, but I'm also like trying not to answer the question in the
Like,
question. Sorry.
I know the answer, but
Yeah, or I know what I would say. Sorry, but like, how does myself connect the dots with that? Like, in terms of like putting together pieces of clothing or new pieces of clothing, and that empowerment piece, getting more women running and encouraging more women to take up more challenges too.
yeah, I mean, I think and as you know, no, just kidding. Like when we're comfortable moving, we're more likely to do it more. And especially for women who are newer to sport or who are sort of just entering the running community, like feeling good about how they like physically feel and how they look while they're performing is important. It's an important piece of feeling like you look the part, and that's just the reality of it. There's also a lot of just like function that we design for that really does help women feel better when they're moving, whether it's, sports bras that are supportive in the right places and adjustable, whether it's pockets so that you feel safe and you can carry safety devices, lots of reflective. We were, I think, the first brand to do watch, the watch window, where it's just like really functional apparel. So we really try to design with like women's needs in mind when we think about our product. And that translates to like feeling good when you run. Of course, moving your body feels good, but if you're, moving your body, that feels great, and you're chafing a ton, that's not a great experience. So we try to design for like the whole experience, keeping movement and women's bodies specifically in mind.
Yeah, I also love the like that kind of, I don't know what your technical term for it is, but that yoga band kind of around at the waist, where it's just so much more comfortable. That is something that Oiselle does, right?
Yeah, that was the short that started it all. So the yoga short, the like running short with a yoga waistband. That was the short that started Oiselle's trajectory, and it's still a staple.
And talk about innovation, like what a simple thing, right? Like I often think about that, like innovations, like connecting dots, right? You take this one dot that's like, people are making yoga, like clothing for yoga that's comfortable, right? And then running shorts, just like, boom,
Maybe
connect
I
the
could be
dots.
comfortable while I'm running also.
Yeah. Like it sounds funny now, because we've had these types of shorts for a decade, or more, but like actually at the time it takes someone sitting down and going, aha, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and there's so much, being newer to apparel, I find all of that really interesting. The great lengths to which our designers go to really make sure that the product that we're designing has like real life in mind. So whether it's, seams and chafing, or where does a waistband sit, like, sort of like the pulley band, like where does it sit on your waist? And is it tight enough that your pants, don't sag while you're running, but not so tight that it's uncomfortable? So there's a lot of wear testing and like real life considerations that go into how we design our product. And it's really cool and inspiring to see like how thoughtfully it's designed.
Yeah, that's so cool. My best friend just had her second baby, and she actually, without those kind of shorts that have that comfortable waistband, like she had a C-section, so she actually wouldn't be able to run.
Yeah,
right? Like she would have had to hack something together, right? So these are things like we don't necessarily think about, or we didn't years ago. And now, because of brands like this, we have so many more options.
absolutely.
Endurance sports should be accessible to everyone, right? That's why we are so excited to be partnering with Motive. Motive is one of the fastest growing training apps in the world today, with thousands of amateur athletes signing up every month and a nearly perfect 4.9 star rating in the App Store. You are not a template, and your training plan should not be either. Prepare for running races, triathlons, cycling events, duathlons, or swim runs, however your season schedule shapes up, and get training written by some of the best coaches in the world in each discipline who know what it takes to help amateur athletes reach their goal on race day. The app takes the training written by those experts and then creates the most optimal training plan for your schedule, abilities, and goals. Plus, the training is fully customized to your race schedule, how much you can train each week, your current abilities, and the goals you want to achieve in your race. You can use the app for free as long as you want, or get all the upgraded features from the app for just $19.99 a month. But as a Feisty listener, you can sign up at mymotive.com and use the code Feisty for 2 months of full premium access. That's right, you get 2 months of premium for free. So you quite literally have nothing to lose. So head over to mymotive.com, mymotiv.com, and use the code Feisty Feisty. And on a personal note, I know the founder of Motive, and he is driven to make triathlon and all endurance sports more accessible for the athletes who care about their performance but who aren't quite ready for a full-time personal coach. If that sounds like you, definitely try the app for 2 months for free. You literally have nothing to lose. As a lifelong runner and triathlete turned CrossFitter, I am stoked to announce that the athletic eyewear brand Tifosi Optics has joined us as a partner here at Feisty Media. Tifosi sports glasses hit all the marks for athletes. They're shatterproof polybicarbonate, so the lenses not only reduce glare, but also offer scratch resistance, which I 100% need. They stay in place when you are moving. The hydrophilic rubber nose pads actually get more grippy the more you sweat, so they are secure and don't slide down your face even when you're running in hot conditions. No matter what sport you do, Tifosi has shades for you. Whether you love tennis, fishing, pickleball, running, cycling, or just hanging out on the beach. They are super reasonably priced, which I love, so I can have multiple pairs that go with any outfit. And of course, Feisty listeners get a special discount. So head on over to tifosioptics.com and use the code FM20. FM as in Feisty Media to get 20% off your order. That's FM20 at tifosioptics.com. I'll put a link in the show notes to make it easy for you. So let's talk a little bit about your background in sports. Was sports part of your life growing up?
Sports were a part of my life. I spent most of my childhood competing in gymnastics. So
gymnastics. Okay.
From the time I was, mommy and me in the foam pit, almost all the way through high school. I stopped competing in my junior year of high school.
Wow. And so are you aware of ways that was empowering in your life in any kind of versus a non-athlete? Yeah.
I mean, sport was very, very formative for me. Even when I stopped competing in gymnastics, it was due to injury. Fitness and moving my body was something that's always been really, really consistent. I didn't find running until I was in my mid late 20s. But even through that sort of gap period, whether I was doing gym classes or, going for walks, I think having sport in my life as a kid and sort of developing teenager taught me all sorts of things about, discipline and time management and setting goals and leadership and, all of it's, the stereotypical list that we all hear. But I think, probably everyone that has participated in sport as a kid can look back on that time and it's so transformative. It's emotional. It's so meaningful in how it shapes your perspective on the world and what you're capable of.
For sure. So through high school, gymnast, when did you, I know you did triathlon and running. Was there a gap in there? Did you do something else? Or when did you start with those sports?
Yeah, so I started running in 2009. I think between call it end of high school and through college and up until then, I went to the gym a lot and did sort of fitness classes and stuff like that. I wasn't very sort of social in my sporting endeavors. But in 2009, I had sort of started running rather than doing cardio at the gym, but a couple miles. And my my now sister-in-law, she wasn't yet my sister-in-law, was like, "Hey, I'm running the Seattle Rock and Roll Half Marathon. Do you want to run it with me? I know you've kind of been running." And I was like, no, thank you. I cannot run. Absolutely not. And she's like, "Yeah, but you kind of do run. Are you sure?" And I was like, no, I don't want to do it. I have no interest in running a half marathon. But finally she asked so many times that I ran it and I registered and I did it. And then I was like, well, I don't even know if I liked that, but I'm halfway to a marathon and that's something I'm supposed to want to do, right? I may as well just get that done now too. So I registered for a marathon later in 2009 and it just weaseled its way into my life in a way that it will probably be here forever.
I love that. Where did And you did a number of Ironmans
Yeah.
somewhere in there. So were you that person who did like the half and the full, and then it's like, where do I go next to Ironman? Yeah, longer
Totally.
and longer. Yeah.
It's like, how long can I exercise for? Yeah. So I ran the Portland Marathon in 2009, barely missed a Boston qualifying time, which I didn't even know was a thing. So I was like, I got to do that. So
Mhm.
I, ran again, qualified for Boston, got injured, which is where triathlon works its way in,
Mhm.
and started just swimming and biking a lot for cross
Mhm.
training. And
Mhm.
thought, well, I may as well do a triathlon. And yeah, then the next decade was spent doing 9 Ironmans, many halves, and lots and lots of running events. And it's been so fun. I actually first found out about Oiselle when I started running, and I was looking for just like a group of women to run with. Like I didn't have friends that ran, and so Oiselle at the time had a really strong social media community,
Mhm.
and I like started engaging and interacting with the team, and joined the Oiselle racing team, which was like their sort of like ambassador athlete network before it was Volet. And that's how I was introduced to this brand. It's how I was introduced to a ton of they were my running friends at the time. Now they were just like life friends. Um, and it's how I got my job at Nuun Hydration. So it's all very full circle. Sport does great things.
Yeah, for sure. And I almost feel like I'm a little bit part of that circle,
You are.
because I like
We are.
when I retired from being a pro triathlete and I started Feisty Media, and then like you were really, and I tell this story a lot, honestly, like you were the first, it was the first time like an actual like someone in charge of marketing at a company reached out to me and said, "Hey, like can we sponsor you?" I did have other like small deals, and I had a little deck, I think maybe that I sent you or something, like we had other, but you're the first one who was just like, how do we support all of the things that you're doing? And I always really appreciated that because Noon, it wasn't what it is today, but at that time was actually like a pretty big brand, especially in triathlon, right?
Yeah.
So that actually gave me confidence too on the flip side of that, right?
Now we've all done so many cool things together.
Exactly. Exactly. And do you think that like so after you finish doing like longer and longer and longer, I think every Ironman triathlete goes through this stage. Like so then either you have to start doing ultras, right?
Yeah.
Or you start doing Ultraman, like you're out there doing triathlon for multiple days in a row. Like where did you go from there, and where does running fit into your life now?
Yeah. So from Ironman, I went to ultras.
No, you
Uh
did. Okay.
we already did that part. Yeah,
I
so but
was
like,
like, oh, all those crazy
yeah.
people who
I,
do oh yeah, that's you. Okay.
yeah, it's like,
Good for
well,
you.
I,
That's awesome.
I got kind of burnt out on my bike after all those years of cycling.
Mm,
So I wanted to like maintain like that duration of exercise, I guess, and see what I was capable of, and have gotten into trail running. Also, we adopted a dog during the pandemic, and my goal was to make her just be the best trail dog in the universe.
mhm.
Mission accomplished, but it was a great reason to get out on trails and run, and sort of build that skill set. So done a couple 50Ks in the last few years. I did my first 50 mile at
Mhm.
Mount Hood last summer. And that was the first time ever that I finished a race and thought, okay, that was enough.
Right. Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah, 50 miles, like that was so fun. I'm so glad I did that. What a great day. I don't need to go register for another one right now. Because
Wow.
after all of the rest of the events, at
Mhm.
least for me, the moment I've crossed the finish line, I'm like so high on adrenaline. It's like
Mhm.
you're already kind of planning the next thing, not after that. So I'm
Interesting.
just taking
Okay.
it as a sign. We'll see if I do another one. Unknown.
Right. So then did you go back to like have you signed up to anything shorter, like a marathon or a half or a 5K?
So I'm doing a couple marathons this year. I was registered for Boston. So I'm
Wow.
gonna run that probably a little more for fun at this point, and then running a marathon here locally in Seattle in the summer. I turned 40 in October, so I really want to like PR at 40,
Hmm.
and then I'm sure I'll want to do something else ridiculous, but that's what I'm telling myself I need to do now.
Yeah. And what is it, I ask a lot of people this, but like the training that you do for these marathons now in your role, like what does it do for you? Does it help your leadership or your job, you do your job better?
I mean, I think it does. When I prioritize doing something for me that's like only about my needs and not about anybody else's, I always just feel better about my day, my time. It feels a little bit more like all of the things that are, you know, not in my control at all are a little more controllable because I controlled the things that I could. Um, being in a routine and just sort of having the discipline and just yeah, it's super, super helpful. I do a lot of thinking on my runs. My runs are either like super social friend time or it's like super just like me and my mind.
Right. Do you listen to podcasts or music, or you just go,
So I listen to music. I can't listen to
okay,
podcasts because it's like too stimulating and I need to
right,
just be able to like zone out. I listen to podcasts when I commute in my car.
right.
But when I run, it's like either friend chats or like chill vibes music. It's not even like pump you up music. It's like just
Oh,
chill.
interesting. Right. And then I do that too. I actually have pump me up music, but it's like the same playlist over and over, and it's almost intentional. So it gives like part of my brain something to listen to, and then I can think over here, right? And then I get all the ideas or whatever, needs to come out of my brain. As we head into summer, rest and recovery are critical for improving sports performance, reducing stress, and living a long and healthy life. We should all invest in better sleep. So, think about the thing you lay your head on for 8 hours a night. If it's not exactly right for you, it can lead to needless tossing and turning, or worse, have you waking up with an unrelenting kink in your neck. My new Lagoon pillow has helped me improve my sleep immensely by pairing me with the performance pillow that has everything I need. So I personally was matched with the Otter pillow. Shout out to Team Otter, which I love because it has a gentle cooling effect. And I was able to choose how much stuffing I wanted in it, which is super important to me because I'm doing a decent amount of CrossFit these days and my shoulders are kind of creaky. So having a pillow that is stuffed just to the right height keeps my neck and head in exactly the right position and comfortable for the entire night. And as of fall 2023, Lagoon launched their 100% mulberry silk pillowcases. It's cool to the touch, buttery soft, and great for your skin and hair. You've got to go check out this pillowcase if you want to feel great and look great every morning. Waking up for morning workouts has never felt better. I'm refreshed and pain-free thanks to my Lagoon pillow. To check it out for yourself, go to lagoonsleep.com/performance and take the 2-minute sleep quiz to find your perfect pillow match. And then use the code PERFORMANCE for 15% off your first purchase. That's code PERFORMANCE at lagoonsleep.com/performance, whole 15% off, and the link is in the show notes. You can just click through there. For decades, running shoes have been researched, tested, and designed for men. Brands have relied on the shrink it and pink it approach to sell male shoes to female customers. That's why we are so excited to be working with Hedas. Hedas designs athletic footwear for women that elevates performance, safety, and style. Hedas unlocks the science behind women's biomechanics through dedicated research, creates better shoes for women that support their longevity and performance, and establishes new design standards to promote transparency in a male-biased industry. Hedas have a lower ankle collar to reduce rubbing, a breathable mesh toe box to allow for ventilation and to allow for female toe shape, a special kind of plate in the midsole to keep tired legs going, a narrow heel cup to reduce heel slippage and take the pressure off our Achilles, and a rounded instep to create a snug fit. Hedas has 3 shoe models designed for different sessions: the Alma Cruise for long runs, the Alma Tempo for training days, and the Alma Speed for pushing the pace. I've personally been running in the Alma Cruise and I love them. It's the shoe I always wanted and never knew I needed. The fit is perfect in every way. You can get your own pair of Hedas at hedas.com and use the code Feisty20 for 20% off. That's Feisty20 at hedas.com, and it will all be in the show notes. Building muscle can be tough, and gains can be so slow, even for those of us who do a lot of strength training. As an ex-endurance athlete who is now in perimenopause, I know this all too well. It can be frustrating to put in the time in the gym and not see the results I'm looking for. That's why it's super important to take the right supplements at the right time. One of those supplements is essential amino acids, which are needed to trigger muscle protein synthesis. Muscle protein synthesis happens when you eat high-quality protein, like eggs or whey. And by supplementing with additional essential amino acids, you can make sure you are getting the full benefit of your training sessions. Targeted essential amino acid formulas can be up to 4 times more effective than just eating protein. I've been taking amino acids for almost a year, and in combination with eating quality protein and a couple other supplements, I have managed to turn the tides on age-related muscle loss, which starts at 30 for women, by the way, and I have continued to make strength gains as I head towards 50. AminoCo has been a long-time sponsor of Feisty Media and has supported all of our brands and podcasts over the years. I recommend starting with AminoCo Perform, and you can grab some at aminoco.com/performance. If you enter the code PERFORMANCE, you will save 30% and receive a free gift if it is your first purchase. Give it a try and let me know how it goes. That's aminoco.com/performance and use the code PERFORMANCE to save 30%. So I want to go back to those days at Nuun when I first heard from you. I'm very curious because I know like it wasn't just Feisty that you reached out to at that time. Like I know that there were other kind of burgeoning brands in triathlon that were led by women that you also reached out to support. And I'm wondering like what was it that you saw in terms of like the business advantages of for Nuun or the advantages for Nuun in particular of supporting women's initiatives like that?
Yeah, so the like social media and like sport ambassador network, like all of it was so different even, 3 years ago versus 5 years ago versus 7 years ago. But at the time, I think, as a brand, we'd really identified that, Nuun is a product for everybody, but there was a big opportunity with women, and women athletes in particular, just in that their level of interest and interest in education about sports nutrition was generally like higher than men's. The sort of, Nuun was like sold in a cute package, very like compact, on the go friendly, throw it in your purse. And so there were a lot of parallels that just made it a product that was really relevant for women. But in terms of our like marketing and our brand partnerships, I think one of the things at the time that really drew us to Feisty and to some of the other, like female focused brands that we partnered with were just how those brands focused on community and connection so much. It was a really like, yes, in some ways like grassrootsy, but like also just really authentic way to work yourself into, as a brand, work your way into like an athlete's routine, an athlete's lifestyle. I think we all know like word of mouth is so effective and impactful for a brand. If a friend recommends something to you and it's like they don't just love the product, but they love the brand because it means something to them, like we're all a lot more inclined to try it than if it's just an ad. And so many of the other brands in triathlon and running that were sort of female focused, like they had that level of authenticity about them too. And so it was authenticity and like sort of that trust was something that was really important to us at Nuun. We were I think probably like in the middle of our brand life cycle from when I was there, at least in that time. But we were really focused on that sort of level of transparency and connection and how we did our marketing. And it, long term, it paid off. We had a really, really strong community that stayed with us for a long time.
Mhm. Yeah, I think that's really key. Like, I think you really saw something there in terms of like how women connect with each other and also the customers. This is the feedback we get a lot from our partners. Like, that if you make a customer through that community and people like your product, they stay and they're loyal.
Totally.
Right. And that's how it, and I know that that's how the numbers went, like for Nuun and for like other, like, you know what I mean? Like, I
Yeah.
actually, I'm like, I have the data, like that
Work.
kind of work.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think I also liked what you said about the brand being like, Nuun as a brand was not like hyper masculine, like some of the brands, especially back then. Like now things have changed quite a lot in terms of how people do their branding, but I definitely really appreciated that. Were you involved in that process at all?
Not initially. We went through a couple of sort of like redevelopments while I was there that I was involved in, like sort of updating the packaging, and updating a lot of our brand visuals. And we did definitely, I mean, for those, I wasn't there at the beginning when we like named it or came up with the original logo
Right.
or anything like that. But we did really keep like our customer in mind. And to your point, like sports nutrition is still and was at the time a pretty saturated category.
Mhm.
And there's a lot of like amp you up, like kind of aggro type brand positioning in sports nutrition. And it's like, it doesn't have to be that way. And also, that's not what everybody's looking for.
Yeah, back in those days, I used to get emails with some frequency from people who were like running some kind of sports nutrition brand or supplements, and they'd be like, we want the women's market." Like, and then I'd go to their website and it would just be like their marketing would just all be men.
Yeah.
Like there's some I can even remember like the landing page and I just like and I have to tell them I'm like, well, I can't, like there's no way I could sell this from this website to my people. Like literally it's just like you come on, there's like some ripped shirtless dude. It's like you're made
What
like
would you like
not
me?
relatable. Yeah. Like it's like on one hand, some women would like that, but like it's not relatable for a product that's going to help us with our performance, right?
No, it's not even aspirational because it's like oftentimes like that's not what most women are after in their exercise and sports nutrition regimen. Um,
Exactly.
so it's like it's not relatable or aspirational. It exists, and when you don't have any other options, you like figure out the path of least resistance or which thing do you dislike the least. But it was a big opportunity for Nuun to just like lean in on sort of more gender neutral
Mhm.
branding and positioning, and
Mhm.
then really, yeah, focus on relationships and connection. And that netted us out as more of a female brand than a male one. But I think at the end of the day, our customers were, somewhere between 60/40 and 70/30. Like it wasn't a landslide in terms of representation either.
Right. 60/40. Which
Female,
who's the 60?
female.
Okay. Wow. Yeah, that doesn't surprise me, but I do agree that like I feel like a lot of the branding was gender neutral, right? But maybe that's just goes to show what happens when you make women feel comfortable, like maybe more women are coming to your brand than
So,
elsewhere,
yeah.
something like that. You were at Noon for a long time. What are some of the main things that you learned about yourself or your own leadership style at that time?
So I think one of the biggest things I learned I was there for 10 years, from 2012 to the very tail end of 21. Um, and one of the, I learned how important it is to learn.
Mm,
Like as a brand, it was so small when I started. And as the brand evolved and the business evolved and the team evolved, there were all these, I was there for 10 years and yeah, it's like the same brand. Every couple years you're recreating your brand and yourself, even if that's not tangible to a customer. It's
mhm,
like what got us to today is not what's going to get us to tomorrow. So you have to kind of rethink what's working, what's not working, and where do we go from here? And I think in my like looking back on my career there in my earlier years, and I was less experienced. We were a smaller team, a smaller brand. I think like learning was hard for me. But just to be agile and to be as self-aware and to know to like have a vision, but also be flexible with your vision.
mhm,
And through all of the growth. I think one of the things I'm proudest of personally, but just that I think also kept me and others there was like learning to be a really good learner. And then as things change and as things grow and as you grow, you realize that like if you can learn it, you can figure it out.
Mhm.
So that was a very, very, very helpful skill in retrospect.
Yeah. That's completely related to confidence in my mind. Like I'm really relating in terms of startup life.
Yeah,
Like, because I think Noon was kind of still in startup
yeah,
mode when you started there. And that's like, and you definitely rose with the challenge. You can see even from the positions that you held as like you were there. But like, it's like, okay, now as we first, it's just, I don't know, now I'm just guessing, but it's typically just like one person doing all the jobs in one thing, right? And then you
yeah,
like back it up and then that person has maybe one person working for them and then da 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 and then you learn to like run a team and all of those things and you have to have confidence to move from I'm the person doing all the things and
yeah,
making all the social media posts to like I'm running the show of an entire marketing
yeah.
team, right?
And like I have to teach and trust and build and, like at the end of the day, one person can't be accountable for everything. So how do you put like structure in place that enables everybody to be successful at the end of the day? So yeah, being at Noon for 10 years, it was 10 years is a long time. And in some ways it felt like a long time, but in some ways it felt very, very fast.
Mhm. And how do you put a structure in place so that everybody can, what did you say there? That was so interesting. Like how you like put a structure in place so that everybody can do their jobs.
Yeah, so that everybody can be successful.
Successful, yeah.
Yeah, so I have found in like my years at Noon and after that teams tend to do better with more information. And of course,
Mhm.
like as a leader, you can't tell every single person every single thing, or every single person would be doing the same job, and that's not productive.
Mhm.
But if everyone understands what we're trying to achieve, why we're trying to achieve it, what role they're playing, what they need to be accountable for, like everybody wants to be successful. There's very few
Mhm.
people that like actually don't care. Um, and if you can provide, the right guard, like sort of like meet individuals or meet teams where they are and provide like the right guardrails for them to feel like they have the right level of autonomy, like they are empowered, but like they have clarity in what they're
Mhm.
trying to do and where they're trying to go. Um, it's so much easier for and happier for everybody involved. So
Yeah. No, I love that you're saying that because I definitely am like, oh yes. I've definitely got the feedback at some points that it's like, Sarah, we're having too many meetings. Like we know what we're doing. And then like on the other side of like, I'm working in a silo. I don't know what's going on,
yeah,
right? So you learn to find that balance.
yeah, and it's I think the balance is like constantly evolving. It's like it's not static. You can't just like choose a balance and like, oh, well, now everyone knows. The other thing I always try to remember too as a leader is and we were pretty good about this at Noon. It like very much instilled this in my leadership style, but you know, as a leader, you're constantly thinking about the problem or the solution or the strategy. But like just because you're constantly thinking about it, that's not everyone's reality. And so if you say, here's the strategy, everyone's like, uh-huh, okay, anyway. In order for it to sink in and become part of like team culture and vernacular and how the team behaves and functions and kind of governs themselves, repetition is key and relating it to each individual is key. It ultimately ends up coming back to like do a lot fewer things, do them more consistently, do them better. Um, and the more clarity and focus that a team has, the more they will, be able to succeed.
I love that. That's so good. How would you describe your leadership style?
Um, how would I describe my leadership style? I would say, um, like I really like to connect personally. I'm a leader that really like I like to meet people where they are and understand who they are and where they've been and where they want to go. Um, I'm a person and this, I think it, is in line with my sports background. Like I have high standards. I want the team that I'm on to achieve. But I am a pretty like direct, transparent person, where I, am always willing to support and help and make my expectations known. So I'm pretty predictable. I'm like, as a leader, I think that I'm a pretty predictable person where a team that's worked with me for a long time is probably like, I know what she's gonna say.
That's good. That could
You
they
know,
have like an internal like what
totally,
would Arielle do?
totally. Yeah.
That's good.
They can like steer their compass and probably try to, figure out like, okay, if we want her to do something else, what do we need to do?
Right.
But I think predictability in a leader is like it's something I've always appreciated with leaders because it helps to develop a team to develop confidence, I think, when they know what to expect. And it helps develop trust as well.
Hmm. I love that. So good. And did you ever over the years, like as you rose through the ranks or even as you were applying for your new job now, did you ever feel any sense of imposter syndrome or and how did you deal with that or deal with any negative thinking that came in?
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone deals with imposter syndrome. So like, yes, absolutely. I have dealt with it and I will continue to in the future. But I think I always go back to like remembering how well I can learn. Um, I think sport is something that has given me personally a lot of confidence as well. Ironman is relatable to many journeys. But just, like you can work hard, you build a plan, you stay flexible, you can figure it out as you go. You're training your skill set to be able to handle anything that comes along. And it's the same thing, I think, in business as you know, as things change. You can in business, you can have the best plan, the best strategy, and there's still going to be factors outside of your control. So
Mhm.
you execute what you can and you stay focused on the things you can stay focused on. And ultimately, you're going to have to like use some skills you didn't probably intend to because it's not always going to be perfect. But yeah, I think sport is a great analogy to business leadership. So I try to stay grounded in that.
I love that you brought that out because that is something that I use often. Is like I had several moments last week actually where I was like, I'm not feeling good about things. I'm not feeling confident in myself. I'm not, and then it's like, oh, like I completely learned this from sport. It's like actually feeling good about taking the next step is like a bonus. Like it's really amazing when I feel good. But actually, do I know what the next step is? Usually it's small. What's the next small step I need to take? I'm still going to like go through everything I need to do today. Here's the checklist. I already have my to-do list. Like I know what I'm doing. And it doesn't matter necessarily that I'm not feeling 100% confident in myself right now because I know that will come back. That'll take care of itself and I just keep going. And that's like it's very much like from sport, if like just go and do the warm up and see how you feel. Right.
Yeah, it's like, okay, I really don't feel like going for a run. Okay, self, just go run 1 mile. And then like once you run 1 mile, once you've taken any action, you like generally start to feel better. Like, of course, there's times you don't when we're injured and shouldn't have gone out to begin with, whatever. Not that I've ever done that.
Mhm.
But yeah, to like
Okay.
get started, take an action. I think another thing too that's really helped me personally, honestly in sport and in business is to surround yourself with good people and good mentors.
Mm,
Um, I think having mentors who understand, not just where you want to go and not just mentors to push you, but mentors who understand who you are, your strengths, the reality of your work style or your training style, who can, really keep you grounded and like meet you where you are. It has been really helpful for me,
mhm.
personally, because, there's at the end of the day, even if you have confidence and you have the skills, you're not always going to feel that way. And so to have a network that's, a little bit outside of your
Mm,
direct, work or company or sports team or whatever, to be able to like check in with and keep you
mhm.
grounded, is so valuable to make sure that, you know, you stay motivated to run the next mile.
Yeah, how I get asked this a lot. So I'm going to ask you, how did you find your mentors?
They've been people that I have been lucky enough to cross paths with and just stay in touch with. I have a number of mentors from Nuun. I consider my triathlon coach, who I still use for running coaching, a mentor. It's people that I sort of encountered along the way in my journey that I kept in touch with. Like I really like to keep in touch with friends from the past, personal work, whatever, what have you. Because you kind of just you just never know. And staying in touch has been just so valuable and just so rewarding. So
Mhm.
yeah.
And I think it comes back to sort of one of the things you said at the beginning about seeing the potential in other people.
Yeah.
So I definitely have a lot of people in my life who we almost mentor each other, but that comes out of understanding that person might have a certain strength and I might have another strength, and then we can help each other or give each other advice in certain areas where one person's further down the road than the other, you know?
Yeah, the different perspective helps. I was talking about that with someone the other day. I think the most helpful mentorships are people that understand you, but who don't necessarily always share your same perspective. And that doesn't mean that it's a contentious argument about what's right, but
Mhm.
it's individuals who totally understand and appreciate you the way that you are, but who also have a different outlook or perspective and can sort of open your eyes to things that you wouldn't have considered otherwise.
Mm, I love that. Okay, before we go, do you have any advice for any women listening who might be looking to develop themselves into a senior leadership position at some point?
Yeah. You know, learn, be open, ask questions. I think one of the things that in retrospect in my career I didn't do enough of early enough on was ask questions. I often came to the table and felt like I'm supposed to know the answer. So I'm not
Mm,
going to ask any questions because I don't want anyone to know that I don't have the answer.
mm,
And you just sort of at that point, I was learning passively versus learning more actively by asking questions and getting involved. So I would remind all of those women that nobody knows everything. Nobody is ever 100% ready for whatever the next thing is.
mhm.
But that doesn't mean that you can't do it.
Right. That's great. Well, Arielle, thank you so, so much for coming on the podcast today. It was great to talk to you, and good luck with
Yeah,
guiding Oiselle into the future.
yeah, definitely. Thank you for having me. This was awesome to reconnect and yeah, very, very grateful to be here.